Of people allowed to vote supported Harper, so that was 38% of the voting public, right? But overall, out of all Canadians, it's actually as low as 17% that are supporting him. So I'm here to say that we have an illegitimate government that doesn't actually represent the people, and it's the system that's the problem. It allows these false majorities and total control, all powerful leaders. And so this isn't a democracy, and we need to change it, and lots of other countries have changed their systems. New Zealand voted to change to a proportional representation system. It worked for them. They asked 10 years later if people still wanted to keep the new system, and they voted to keep it. So a very democratic system down there, and we could do the same. Other countries have also changed, and why are we keeping a system that's so archaic and 150 years old? You know, so this is my question. I think it ties in with climate action because we're not being represented by the current government.
So if we had a more democratic representation as to what people actually wanted,
yes.
How do you think our strategies towards addressing climate change would be different?
Yeah, I just think we'd have some public debate about it. We'd be truly represented. In the current system, almost half of the votes are wasted. They don't go towards electing anybody. They're just, if you live in a riding where somebody else won, then you don't get your point of view heard. And proportional representation changes that, and it means that every vote actually counts. In New Zealand, I think it's as high as 97% of the votes count effectively towards representing those people's true wishes and values. So I think it would go a huge way to actually taking action on this issue, because I think Canadians do believe the science, and we need to take action now, right? And time is running out.
So we currently live in what's often called the first past the post electoral system. How can you explain what that is, and then tell me how proportional representation differs?
For first past the post is winner take all. So it's very much like you have winners and losers in this system, right? And democracy doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be a game. It can be actually effective voting so that we have true representation of our views. So yeah, first past the post is used in the terms of a horse race where the first horse over the line wins. So I think a good way to use it is winner take all, because you know, the people that vote for people that don't win are the losers, and that's over half or near half of Canadians that can vote.
So proportional representation would bring more of a consensus building element to democracy and less of a competition?
Yeah, there's often this kind of system relies on coalition government, so a lot wider range of voices are heard in the parliament. And yeah, so there would be some kind of discussion on the issues, and you make progress based on compromise, not on totalitarian regime. So,
okay.
Well, I think it's well known in the scientific community, and that climate scientists have agreed that this is happening, and it's a travesty that media has been able to give fair, equal representation to the other side that's not based on science. And so I think we need to be talking about it, and I like to address the idea that our democracy has failed us on this case, but obviously, you know, it's a very pressing issue, and we need to be doing all we can to get action on it.
Okay, and is there any messages that you'd like to give to fellow Edmontonians?
Yeah, well, I'd love it if Edmontonians would go to fairvote.ca and sign the Declaration of Voters' Rights. It's calling on the government to look at alternative systems, a proportional representation system. It's not saying what kind, it's just saying we need to move to that kind of system. So if you go there and sign, we want to build up our support there in the run-up to the 2015 election, which is obviously going to be critical times for addressing climate change issues. So
maybe let's start with your name.
My name is David J. Parker. I'm the Green Party candidate yet again, fourth time or fifth time, I believe, in Edmonton Centre.
Woo! Okay.
It's called, I think it's called Edmonton McLeod now. and it's going to be a slightly smaller riding, and the middle class is going to be more predominant as I see it. So there's a better chance for progressive-minded people to vote for Greens, which may up my vote. But another factor in the election is this time, I was just telling my friend here, there's going to be, Elizabeth May is going to be in the leaders' debate. That will make a big difference. She was in the leaders' debate, not last election, but the election before. And my personal vote in Edmonton Centre went up to over 8%, which for the Green Party is really good. The whole vote for the whole Green Party was much bigger after her being on the leaders' debate. So we're looking forward to that again.
So as part of the sort of democratic process, you think that it would be important that alternative parties and the three main parties get a chance to participate in the discussions?
What I'm looking forward to is a coalition government with the Liberals, the NDP and the Greens forming a coalition and realizing at last that this electoral system is not working for us. And the only way forward for these, again, progressive parties is to change the electoral system to a proportional representation system, whereby there's small parties and parties with a spread out voting base get elected. I mean, like I say, I got 8.15% of the popular vote last election, but all those people, thousands of people, got no representation whatsoever. That's true right across the country. If you vote for a Green Party candidate, the only place where you're going to get any representation, there was well over a million of them, the only place you're going to get any representation is in Saanich Gulf Islands, where Elizabeth May runs.
Right.
And then you get parties like the Conservative Party with less than 40% of the popular vote get a majority government. Where's the democracy in that? They have total power now. And, Stephen Harper said, well, now we have a strong, workable government. Sure, it works for him, but it doesn't work for the 60% who didn't vote for him.
Okay, and we're at the climate march. So how does climate change sort of serve as a plank for your party's platform?
Well, it's one of our major platforms, and in the past, we've been very careful to make sure that people know that we do have a complete and comprehensive platform, not just environmental issues. People used to be scared off by that, but today I listened to the news and there was over 100,000 people in New York marching for climate change.
Over 300,000.
That means to me that attitudes are changing radically. The time has come. So now we can be more upfront, if you put it that way, about our main issue, which is we are the Green Party. We are concerned about the future of the planet, and we want to see some action. And I'm very, very optimistic that this will be the catalyst. Just like the March on Washington back in the 1960s with Martin Luther King, I think that's where we are right now in climate change issues.
Okay. It is often presented that there's a conflict between environmentalism and jobs. And I've also heard that one of the sort of best solutions coming out is a red-green alliance, an alliance between labor and unions and environmentalism. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first, it's a myth. There's many, many studies, and common sense shows us that we've come to the end of the Industrial Revolution. Any jobs created in the future will be clean jobs in the clean economy. I mean, for one thing, we cannot continue in the way we are. We can't have oil sands all over the world. We can't have oil sands here even. We can't continue producing massive amounts of greenhouse gases. And like I say, hundreds of studies show that there will be more jobs created and the economy will not be harmed if we go to a green economy. So it's like the transition between horses and buggies and the motor vehicle. We're going there. Just don't be afraid of it. Let it happen. And if the government would take their subsidies away from fossil fuels and put them on renewables, we'd have all those jobs 10 years ago.
Okay, and any messages for Edmontonians that you would like to share?
Edmontonians, don't be scared about our platform, which is to limit we're not talking about shutting down the tar sands, we're just talking about capping the growth. If all the tar sands were exploited, it would take us way past the 2 degrees Celsius mark, 350 parts per million. We'd never be able to get there, and heaven only knows what the consequences will be. You'll hear at the end of this March just what the consequences will be. More melting of the ice caps. Heaven only knows what that'll do to the weather. More flooding like they had in Calgary, more heat waves and droughts like they're having in California right now, flooding in Pakistan. Everybody knows we're in a bad situation, but they're just timid about making this radical. This is a radical change, but we've got to do it. It's the only way we're going to survive. So don't be afraid. I mean.
Okay. And are there any sort of deep cultural assumptions that we may have to call into question?
Yeah, there's a big cultural assumption that's come about since the Second World War that we have to have growth. And if you think about it, unlimited growth forever is a non-starter. A child of 10 will tell you that nothing grows forever. And I believe that the economy has grown to a certain point right now. And this is the system is telling us that 2008, when the economic collapse happened, and we've not got any growth since then. There's been some growth in emerging economies, China, but England, US, Japan, Australia even, the growth is topped out. It's not going any bigger. So big cultural change is to find a steady state economy, to work towards a steady state economy, which means zero growth. Again, not because I want it that way, but because it's got to happen.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, you can.
You were cheering on my interview with the Green Party candidate.
Yes.
Would you like to add anything to what you heard?
Well, you know what? I will say I'm a proud supporter of the Green Party. I believe wholeheartedly in what they do, what they stand for. I used to be a supporter of the sometimes between Liberals and New Democrats. What turned me off with the New Democrats is that there's no cap on the carbon, the pollution, the poison, right? And that's one of the things that turned me off from them. So, I mean, if the earth is destroyed or the water is polluted, there is no rights for anyone, no native rights. I am what you call, I guess, an indigenous treaty person. But I realize if everything is destroyed, there is no there is nothing to live what you call it. If the earth is destroyed and and land is destroyed, then basically there is no life.
Okay.
That's